name is Clint.
And I'm Nikki, and welcome to Emerge Online. Thanks for joining us this morning.
We're so excited that you're meeting us here in the youth room. As you can tell, the workers have still been working hard this week to make our youth room more beautiful. So when we're able to come back together and worship together and hang out, it's going to be a totally new place. We're excited about that. We are starting week 2 of our series called What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do.
That's right. We started last week looking at the life of Joseph, and the next couple of weeks we'll just be continuing his stories and all of the craziness that he went through and how God was with him through it all.
Yeah. So what we want you to do, we want you to text a friend, let them know that you're watching this video right now and that they should as well. Find a quiet place and get ready to worship, because our youth worship team has some incredible songs for you to sing along with this morning as we worship God. Welcome. We're excited that you're watching. Thanks. We'll see you in a few.
Hello guys, thank you for tuning in with us this morning. Could you please bow your heads in prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for everything you do for us. And we thank you for all the hope you've been feeding us in our lives to help us get through this pandemic, this global pandemic. And Lord, we thank you for everything you've done for us, blessing our families. And we know that you are a good, good Father. So Lord, we love you and we lift you up. And it's in your Son's name we pray. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
So, when you don't know how to do something, how to fix something, or how something works, what do? Ask a teacher? Ask your parents? Ask your friends? Ask someone you really know and trust? No! You go to the internet and ask some randos. But I'm not talking about creeps here, I hope. No, I mean the people of the internet! You know, those people who make how-to videos. Because chances are, if you're trying to figure out something, someone on the internet has already figured it out for you. Things like, how do I unsend a text? No. How do I do a winged eyeliner? How do I get rid of the zit by Friday night? How do I get out of gym class? How do I screen cap Snapchat without getting caught? They'll never know. But then there are things in life that don't have an easy fix, that don't have a simple solution, that don't have a how-to video. Things like what to do when you have problems with family, or when it seems like you have no control in your life, or what to do when someone has done something to you. I mean, clearly, they gotta go. The truth is, there's a lot of life that doesn't have a solution you can just find online. So how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do?
Thank you for singing along with us. And worship team, awesome job.
This week, we're starting week 2 of our What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do series. Like we said, we're looking at the life of Joseph. And this week, we're going to talk about when there's nothing you can do, knowing that God is still with you. I'm sure that we've all had times in our lives where we can relate to this idea of maybe we've been in the middle of a struggle, or something just hit us out of the blue and just rocked our world. Maybe if nothing in your personal life, maybe just this pandemic in general has just completely shifted everything, and you find yourself in a place where it's either helping you draw closer to God, or you're wondering where God is in the middle of all of this. A time in my life where I've struggled with this is when I got to college. I just really found myself in a place of just uncertainty. My world was completely changed from living at home with my family to moving to a different city. I was with different people, and my closest friends weren't with me. And I found myself struggling with depression for the first time in my life. And so this was a series over a couple of years where I was just dealing with this. I felt isolated from my friends, not from anything that they were doing, just because of the place that I was in. I felt like my family didn't really get what was going on. It was more of a, why are you struggling with your school, and like, why are your grades slipping? And that was the issue, instead of, what was really going on with me. And so I felt very alone, like there was nobody that really understood. And at the time, I felt really separated from God. I wasn't connected to any kind of Christian community on campus. I wasn't going to church really. It was a really rough and almost like a period of being in a desert with my faith. And so through that, so much of my time was spent wondering, God, where did I go wrong? Like, where are you in this? And I just don't know how to connect to you. And so that's where I was in this moment. And years later, it's been a long time since that initially took place, but I can look back and see where God had put incredible people in my life who kept me grounded, who kept me connected to God even when I felt like I wasn't in a good relationship with Him, but we're still the presence of God in my life. And so I can look back now and see where God had shown up, even though in the moment when I was in this pit, as we can say, that I just felt like God wasn't there. But now I can look back and see that where He did show up. And that's exactly the same instance where we see Joseph in the story that we're looking at today.
Nikki, thanks for sharing that. I think a lot of us have been in those moments when there's nothing we can do. Just knowing that God is with us hopefully brings you some hope. We are going to look at a story, actually a continuation of the story that we started last week in Joseph's life. Remember, we looked at how Joseph was the beloved son, like his father's apple, right, in his father's eye. Like, his father openly loved him more than the other 11 brothers. And so that, as you can imagine, would cause some struggles and difficulties inside their family. And now we kind of see what happens out of that jealousy, out of that tension inside the family that no one addressed. The father didn't address it. Joseph wasn't aware enough or care enough, perhaps, to help filter some of that stuff before sharing that with his brothers and his whole family. That, by the way, you're going to bow down to me one day. That I'll be more powerful than you are. That was not received well by the brothers, and they just didn't let it go. So this continues to build into the story that we read about today.
Check out how the brothers responded. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him.
Right?
What?
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about sibling rivalry.
A little bit. Like, oh, there he is, murder, right? Like, there's
In
that guy.
response to a dream
Right.
that Joseph had, let's just kill him.
And then like that tension from like, oh, Dad got him a beautiful robe, right? Which caused that separation. I think we talked about last week. It would be the same as if like his father gave him like a brand new car, like an awesome car, and the other 11 brothers had to like
Drive mom's minivan.
yeah, like the old stinky one, right? The old stinky minivan. And jealousy abounded, right? They're so mad at him. There he is. Kill him.
Anyway, it continues and says, "Here comes that dreamer," they said to each other. "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of the cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams." Thankfully,
All right.
one of the brothers was not quite as horrifying in his response, and he had a bit of a conscience, and he cared about Joseph a little bit more. So here's what he said. When Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. "Let's not take his life," he said. "Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him." Reuben said this to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. So thank goodness Reuben was there. He had this plan like, hey, like put him in the cistern. Yes, we can do that. That's an appropriate response. But don't kill him. And he had this secret plan to go back afterwards and rescue him and bring him home. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah. We finished a series a couple weeks ago just talking about how the you effect, like the influence that you can have in situations in your life. Reuben was the oldest brother, and if you are the oldest of several brothers and sisters, you may realize that you have a ton of influence. And Reuben uses his influence in a good way, at least not in a terrible way, in this moment to say, like, okay, like y'all are a little off the rails here with this whole like kill him plan. Let's just instead, and he thinks this through his mind, he realizes maybe he can't change the whole brother situation right now, but he's like, we'll throw him in the cistern here in the wilderness and I'll come back for him later. You know, like it won't be terrible.
Right. And the story continues.
So they took Joseph, they put him in the cistern, they leave him for dead. But they upped the story a little bit, right? They took his robe, the beautiful robe that his father had given him that they were so jealous about. They ripped it up. They actually put like blood on it from an animal they found, and they were like, "Hey, we're gonna go take this home to Dad, and he will see this, and he'll just know that Joseph's dead, and we'll be totally done with him." Wait a minute. There goes a caravan of passing like traders. So people would go from one city to another, and they would buy things in one city and take it to another city and sell it. And they see this group of people going by to a big market, and they're like, "Hey, why don't we make a little money on this? If we kill our brother, or if we just leave him here in the desert to die, then we won't make anything." So, like loving brothers, this is totally a plan hatched by real boys, right? Like, let's just sell the brother that we don't like into slavery. We'll make a little money. We'll tell Dad he's dead, and everybody wins. Well, almost everybody. Right?
I have so many thoughts. Like, why can't they just say that the brother got lost? Like, why do they have to be like, here's his bloody robe. He was horribly, horribly killed.
Yes. An animal, a savage animal got a hold of him.
I'm so sorry to Joseph's dad.
Right.
Poor Israel.
Yeah, we're all torn up about it.
Yeah. Anyway, so they took the robe to his dad and was like, examine this, look at it. And he saw that it was his son's robe, that there was blood on it, and of course was heartbroken. And meanwhile, Joseph's in a well in the middle of the wilderness, alone. Remember that pit we were talking about earlier? He's literally in a pit, alone. And so you can imagine what Joseph might have been feeling. I'm sure that it was hard for him to feel connected to God at this point, to see how God had at all been a part of this plot that allowed him to end up in this plan.
Even when we look at the words that Joseph's brothers use when they bring the robe back to the father, he says this: they took the ornate robe back to their father and said, "We found this. Examine it to see whether it's your son's robe." So like they gave this bloody, mangled lie to their father and said, "Hey, does this look like your son's?" And they full well knew that it was Joseph's because they stole it from him. And even interesting, the words they use, it's not like, "Oh, our poor brother," right? It's your son, right? It's not ours. He's your son, the one who you love. We really love him that much. But just again, showing that separation, that distance, that anti-love for their brother, just out of jealousy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, Joseph is in a rough spot, 100%.
Man, as tragic and as terrible and as scary as Joseph's story is, we can learn so much from it. I don't know if you've had times in your life, maybe a difficult breakup with a boyfriend or girlfriend, maybe your parents are fighting, maybe you didn't get into the college you wanted, perhaps you got injured the first week of your favorite sporting event, maybe you got cut from the band. Whatever tragedy you have had in your life, and we can learn so much from Joseph's story and what happens later.
Thankfully, the story continues and doesn't end with him in the pit. And it says, "The Lord was with Joseph." I know that Joseph knew this in his heart. And so what's so cool is that this truth didn't change the reality of Joseph's situation. Knowing that God was with him didn't miraculously get him out of the pit. This truth didn't mean that Joseph suddenly had this clear vision of how his story would end or where it was going or what the purpose of this struggle and tragedy was in the long-term story of his life. But what this truth did mean is that he was able to know that God, his creator, was with him. And that is such a powerful thing for us to remember when we're in the middle of what seems like the lowest parts and the lowest pits in our life.
We can learn from Joseph's story, and maybe even from our own experiences, that when there's nothing you can do, God is with you. In those moments we feel completely powerless or helpless in a situation, when we feel like those people who are supposed to be closest to us have betrayed us and told lies about us, when those people who have, who are our own family sometimes, have injured us and hurt us in such just terrible ways, like Joseph is experiencing, and we can hopefully take comfort in knowing that God is with you, and the Lord is with you even in those moments. See, when you decide to become a Christian, when you choose to follow Christ with your life, that's what happens. That we have God living inside us, and He has promised us so many times that He is with us. There are countless times throughout the Bible when God says, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you." Man, I don't know where you are right now. If you feel like you're in a pit, or that your family's sold you off, or what difficulty you're going through, please know that God is with you in that moment, and that we will see later in Joseph's stories that amazing things come out of terrible things.
Absolutely. And if you, again, are finding yourself in one of those parts of your life where it seems like a pit, please feel free to reach out to us, and we would love to encourage you, to help lift you up, and just walk alongside you while you're dealing with whatever you're dealing with right now. And if it's not us, then your small group leaders or your parents, find someone in your life who can keep you grounded and help you recognize where God is present in your life. Again, we're not always going to know the end story or the end goal, but God hasn't left us alone.
That's right. We love you guys. We're here for you, and we're so excited about your future.
Thanks for joining us today, guys. We just want to remind you all of what Clint Nicky was talking about. No matter what you're going through, no matter how good or bad the situation may be, God is right there with you. I mean, He might not be fixing the problem yet. He might be in the storm with you. And that's probably the best way for Him to help you all out in this situation if He thinks so. So just remember that, and God is in control. God knows what's going on, and He loves you, and He wants to help you all out. So just remember that. So I want y'all to pray with me. So let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for this day, Lord. I just pray that you help us do what you want us to do, Lord, and that is to love one another and help one another, Lord, because we are made in your own image, and we are all your children. And I ask that I pray that you are there, and help people see that you are there, that you are in control. And no matter how good or bad the situation is, you are there and you are helping them out. In your son's name we pray. Amen.